It's kicking off in F1ville, isn't it? Because James Allison has taken shots at the bulls that are red, saying something to this effect. Red Bull have bought upgrades that have indeed downgraded the car. Oh, the humanity. James Allison from the boys and girls from Brackley and Brixworth continues that an upgrade, if it doesn't work, it makes your life hard, because the moment you stop trusting your tools, a la correlation, you have to backtrack, you lose loads of time. Time, James Allison says, is your biggest friend. Losing it, therefore, is your worst enemy. Oh, the humanity. This is chaos. Now, I love some F1 friction, some stakes, conflict. I admire, no commend James Allison for rising above from the flotsam and jetsam in F1. Stepping to the likes of Christian Horner, team principal of the bulls that are red. However, Mr. Allison, I think this is a bit rich coming from you, sir. Just a tad. This from James Allison of the boys and girls from Brackley and Brixworth. This from a technical director who struggled to understand the ground effect for as near as makes no difference the past 36 months. 36 months of hurt is what Mercedes fans have had to endure. 36 months of upgrades becoming downgrades. Correlation, James Allison, you say. Is that even a thing over at Mercedes, the Silver Arrow team, the boys and girls from Brackley and Brixworth? Lest we forget that Peter Wright had advised you on the essence of ground effect car. You ignored him. Between you and Toto, the boy who cried wolf. You failed to take the ground effect DOWNGRADES advice. And yet, and still in June of 2024, you could make the case that Mercedes still failed to understand ground effect to the extent that the bulls that are red and Adrian Newey. We had zero pods, which didn't work. Another failed concept, courtesy of failed correlation between in real life and whatever was going on in the simulator, the wind tunnel and the CFD. What are we doing here? Oh, the humanity. I fail to understand. Please help me then. Peaky performance curves of what's characterised Mercedes failings again over the past 36 months. And now, of course, we get driver mutiny. Oh, the humanity. What are we talking about, Mr. James Allison? People who live in glass houses, they say, should not throw stones. And that's not to say on the back of convergence that we see from McLaren, Ferrari and now Mercedes by virtue of a cheeky, finally upgraded front wing that backs off on the straights and gives Messrs Hamilton and Russell speed sufficient to where they can optimise for their maximal velocity on straights. That's not to say that the convergence that we see in the latter stages of these rules and regulations hasn't given rise to a soft, mechanical and technical underbelly of the RB20, the car that Max Verstappen drives, because it does have weaknesses. These, of course, per Maximilian Verstappen, are fundamental. You can't design nor tinker for car setups to meek them out even. It cannot curb. Maximilian Verstappen over the past two races has not been curbing, ergo has been losing lap time. You only need to speak to Damon Hill to find out about this. Damon, when speaking about the Canadian Grand Prix at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, said that there is anywhere up to 0.3 to be gained from the geometric racing line, which necessitates curbing. Maximilian Verstappen in that RB20 cannot do it. That, Maximilian Verstappen says, is a fundamental flaw. However, the genius now departed that is Adrian Newey, in his book, How to Build a Car, he speaks to his design philosophy. And that, of course, is to build a car that's adaptable. He still blames himself for Senna's death in that he didn't build a chassis that lacked for aerodynamic sensitivity. You need to build a chassis that runs well around the most frequently occurring aerodynamic, technical and mechanical challenges over the course of an F1 calendar in 2024. That is, of course, medium to high speed turns. That's the chassis that Adrian Newey has built. And of course, he's factored in anti-dive and anti-squats, which necessitates, of course, a suspension that goes hyper mode in terms of its lateral stiffness. The equal and opposite, the downside that comes with that, however, is that you will struggle with curbing around, let's say, a resurfaced Singapore, around, let's say, a Monaco, around, as an example, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve at the Canadian Grand Prix. That's the trade-off. Christian Horner's clapped back, however, at Messrs Allison and Wolff. He said this, and I think this is the pertinent point, chat. Even with our downgrade, we managed to beat their upgrade, said Horner. It was rewarded, the downgrade, in inverted commas, with a race win. They still couldn't beat us, said Christian Horner. And this is the Aesop's fable, right? Christian Horner continues, so I think despite having won 6 of the last 9, we're going to have to be at the top of our game to keep eking out a gap. And herein lies the Aesop's fable. Against the backdrop of Sky F1 publishing all this stuff saying that there's 5 contenders for the championship, when it's gotten close, when these teams are converging upon Red Bull and Maximilian Verstappen and Christian Horner, Red Bull have this thing where they still manage to get it done. And this, for me, as a fan of competitive racing, is even more concerning. The other teams, being Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari, have proven, more the latter than the former, have proven that they do not know how to win, not on a consistent basis at least. You only want to check out Charles Leclerc and his Ferrari performance at the Canadian Grand Prix. They do not understand how to get it done, at least not in the same way as the bulls that are red. And herein lies the problem. I desperately want to drink from the copium glass that tells me that we're going to get a competitive season between now and the end of this year. However, I don't think these other teams have the minerals. They're not cut from the same cloth as Red Bull. They do not understand the requisite, what it takes, what you have to do to get between here and there as far as defeat and victory. When it's close, excellence is what Red Bull personifies in everything they do. They have probably the best driver on the grid. They have the best infrastructure. Operationally, they are the best. When it is close, this becomes more important, does it not? I was having a look at Maximilian Verstappen's records. Listen, 7 different tracks he's won, 3 consecutive races. 8 different tracks that will be this year. Mexico, Zandvoort, Spa, Austin, Yas Marina, Suzuka. What are we doing here? This is bonkers now. This dude, excellence. Listen, here's the crux, the Aesop's fable again. Excellence, some say, isn't what you do at a Monaco. It's not what you do at Canada or Singapore. Adrian Newey hasn't built a car to run well in anomalous circumstances. He's built a car that goes well around 80% of the tracks around the 2024 calendar. That's what the anti-dive is about. That's what the anti-squat is about. Around him, Christian Horner has built a team in his image that epitomizes operational excellence. They very rarely drop the board. They very rarely across the board make mistakes of material consequence. And that matters. Because F1, for the avoidance of doubt, is a story told in tense, where the team and driver that make the least errors, that make those least frequently, normally is going to take the 25 points. That's your team and your driver that normally 9 times out of 10 are going to win themselves the silverware that matters in the paid sessions. For the avoidance of doubt, chat, excellence, some say, isn't what you do on a Sunday or a Monday or a Wednesday in isolation. Excellence, particularly in F1, is what you do every day. Consistency is key. It's not how bright your flame burns on occasion. It's the length and the consistency with which it burns. Your success in Formula One, for the avoidance of doubt, will be a function of that. And the balls that are red epitomise all of the aforementioned. Sky Sports F1 saying that it's going to be competitive between now and the end of the season. I certainly hope so, Sky. But on most recent evidence, I think we need to question / revise that. But I digress. Prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.